Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hardwood Nations podcast with your boy CL Anthony and my main man, Bryce Ward. What's going on, Bryce?
Not much, same as always. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. We are back and better than ever and coming off a heat win in our hometown of Orlando, Florida. We are fucking fantastic this morning.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
look, that was a G League showcase, okay?
Hey, the next night though, Orlando's G League beat Brooklyn, so I'll
Yes,
take that.
good win, good win. Look,
Yeah,
me and Cortez called it the Lakeland crew all night because I'm like, who is these people? He was like, I don't know, they're from
yeah,
Lakeland. I'm like, all right, this is the Lakeland crew.
pretty much.
Shout out to our brothers at the Balls in Our Court podcast, Cortez and Kevin. We had a great time Friday night, especially almost
Mhm.
getting kicked out the Magic Arena. Bryce, we had some breaking news Friday night. Kyrie Irving is going to be back playing with the Brooklyn Nets on a part-time basis. First question: how do you feel about the Nets relenting on their previous stance of not having Kyrie play? Because this is a Nets deal, not a Kyrie deal.
Um, I think I think it makes sense with the amount of problems all the teams are having. Take for example the Heat and Magic. Everybody's busted up or on COVID protocols. Lots of teams are having problems. If you're going to be calling up players from the G League, you might as well let Kyrie Irving play away games. That's
Right.
how I feel about it. So I mean, it's no different than just calling in a player when you absolutely need him. And everybody could use a Kyrie Irving right now. So that's fair in my opinion.
Well, I think it's bullshit that you have one stance at the beginning of the season and then you. I think this has to do a little more to do not with what's going on currently in the league because this has quietly been in the works for 2 weeks. I think what's going on here is they're not that good. Kevin Durant is playing his ass off. They're barely beating good teams. He needed help, so I think that's what this was about. So for them to go back on their original stance is bullshit from the team standpoint. From Kyrie's standpoint, is absolutely fine because everybody wants to see Kyrie play. But if you grandstand the way that you did, like the team did when they made that decision, you have to stick with that decision, come hell or high water, or it makes you look weak in the long run. That's just my issue. Now you compound that
See,
with what? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just gonna say
I'll wait.
you compound that with what's going on right now with all these COVID cases that's causing players to miss time. But I think the first reason is they're not a good team. Kevin Durant needed help, and that was glaring. So they're like, okay, we'll release our stance on Kyrie. So that's what I think happened. Go ahead.
Um, I agree with everything you just said. It's just I see it as these organizations are probably seeing this year as like you have to be really fluid with how you're dealing with things. First off, Brooklyn doesn't look weaker to me because based on what we know behind the scenes, Brooklyn's been the weaker side of this situation since they brought Kyrie and Durant on. They're not doing anything different in my eyes. The thing is, yeah, they seem like they're having problems. They're not winning the types of games they should win. They're having James Harden always out. Kevin Durant's playing outrageous minutes, even though he's playing like the MVP. Um, all these things are adding up to Brooklyn deciding to bring Kyrie back. And my whole thing is, I don't see why we just have to make a stern decision. From a basketball standpoint, at the beginning of the season, we all thought that maybe Kyrie not playing at all is better for the overall chemistry of the team. Things have not went as planned. You don't have to dig your feet in the sand. You can change course as long as Kyrie is okay with it and he's okay with playing whenever he can. Then do what you can to better your team. If you thought you were going to be okay and now you're seeing you're in a lot of trouble, don't be so ignorant to be like, "Oops, I didn't make a mistake. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing." No, you just fix it. It's a business. It, it doesn't matter if you're wrong. Just correct it. You need to win. You need to make money. That's the whole point of this. So yeah, they said these things at the beginning of the season, but the season hasn't went according to plan for anybody. So it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't make them seem weaker than they already were. I'm not saying they don't look weak, but in my eyes, it's part of the course for what Brooklyn has done since those guys have been there. So none of this surprises me really. And like I said, anybody could use a Kyrie right now whenever they could get him. So yeah, it looks like kind of bad on Brooklyn, but at the end of the day, it's not really changing anything there. So they're just desperate to have some more talent on the court. So we'll see if it changes, how much they win when he can play. If the continuity and the chemistry is going to be that big of a deal, then who knows? It might not matter anyways. But for them to change course, that's not necessarily like surprising, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad move either. I mean, you have to be able to change it on the fly, especially these last few seasons.
If I'm Kyrie, I want an apology, and it doesn't have to be a public apology. And and,
That's
and,
fair.
and they
That's
and
fair.
they may have given him that behind the scenes, but I definitely, because they took such a quote unquote hard stance for such a weak team, I definitely want an apology if I'm Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie never said he wasn't going to play. He was ready to play part time. The Nets
Okay.
were the ones that were like, no, that's not going to be feasible, and we're shutting you down. I didn't think it was going to be feasible. I believe you felt the same way, but Kyrie never said I didn't want to play. So yeah, the Nets definitely owe him an apology for that. Now going to the end game, will this bring them a championship? Because if not, it's still a complete and utter failure.
I still don't think they get a championship this year.
I'm with you on that too. I might have to change my finals pick, but it won't be the Brooklyn. All right,
Yeah.
moving right along. Stephen Curry, the greatest three-point shooter I've seen in my life, shattered Ray Allen's record, I believe, Monday or Tuesday night with 500 less games. Considering Steph's age and volume shooting, do you think his three-point record, which he could add 1,000 to 1,500 more threes to these previous record, do you think this record will be touched? Because I don't think it will.
Um, I'm gonna say probably not. I'm not gonna
Okay.
say for sure no because you just never know.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna say probably not. I'll I'll say this: he broke it in 500 games earlier.
Yeah, 500 less
Is that
games.
what you said? Okay.
Yes.
The league is lucky he didn't stay healthy when he was younger, or he
Mm-hmm.
would have done it way sooner. So I really don't know if someone's ever going to break that record. He's also going to, without a doubt, go down as the greatest shooter of all time, and I don't think that's in question. He, you know, he's special. He's a special player. He's led his team to championships. He's done literally everything you can do. Unanimous, first time unanimous MVP ever. Likable guy. Like, there's nothing bad to say about him. His work ethic and his product, his end product you know, shows what he's truly capable of. And he's got so much time left, and the way he plays the game, his record is going to be outrageous, just outrageous. So, I don't know if anybody's ever going to break it. I won't say for sure no, but he's a generationally great player, and I'm excited that we got to witness all that like firsthand because it's
I got
impressive.
I got a bit of breaking news. One day we're going to start doing this live because it would be more impactful if we were live. Trey Young has just entered COVID protocols now as well, so there's another team that's going to be impacted for a couple of games with their number one guy being out. Uh, you hit the nail on the head. Speaking of Steph's previous ankle injuries and things of that nature, because he probably would have did this, let's say, in 800 less games. I'm just throwing a number out there. Had
He
it
missed
not
the
been
what,
for that,
like legit 2 or 3 seasons early on. I'm thinking
yeah,
of at
yeah,
least two.
I think it's like two and a half ish seasons,
Yeah.
worth of games that he's missed. Um, and this record doesn't even include the threes that he's made in the playoffs, by the way. So that's another thing altogether. So, um, as far as impact, and me and Gerald kind of talked about this the other night. As far as impact, I made the argument that Steph Curry has impacted the game more than the game's greatest player right now, LeBron James. Would you say that statement is true, or would you say that statement is false?
True. He changed the whole flow and the way teams were built.
Hmm. He right there alone puts him in a category, let's say, of even like the Allen Iversons of the league. Was he the greatest player? No. Impact wise, culture wise, he was one of the most greatest players in the NBA. Steph is in that category now by virtue of the 3-point shot and how it has revolutionized the game at this point. Um, it is simply amazing. It's beautiful to watch. So it's good
Could
that
you
he's.
make an argument that he was, let's just go outrageous and say maybe as impactful as Shaq? Because look at how they had to kind of like you've said change the rules
Mhm.
and change how I guess teams played because of how dominant Shaq was. Look at what we're looking at just this season, the rule change on shooting,
Mhm.
because we've seen a decade almost of Stephen Curry and the change that he's had on the league and everyone basically copying that. It became a shooters league, and now we're having a rule change to affect, how I guess easily players can get to the line or create space and use that space to get fouls and stuff. But still, it's affecting shooters the most. But yet, the guy who the rule has basically been changed for, or in terms of like how he impacted it, it's changed. He isn't affected by it at all. He's still having an amazing year,
Right.
and it's just I don't even know what to make of it. But I would make the argument that like he changed the league as much as some of the most impactful players of all time, like Jordan and Shaq, just because everybody started playing this way. Everybody started copying Golden State, and the reason they copied Golden State is because Steph Curry started a team chemistry thing that Klay Thompson ate off of, and that team dominated. That's all we saw was domination, and the way they were doing it was efficient offense and great shooting.
Mhm.
And that started with Stephen Curry being the greatest shooter probably of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's impressive to see. And here's the thing: the NBA made rule changes even back in the early 2000s to speed up the game because we were having like 74, 75 final scores back in that day. So they made rule changes, eliminated hand checking, put in 3-second rules, the things of that nature to open up the game to make it more likable or watchable on television, right? They wanted more scoring.
Mm-hmm.
The shooters we have now are a byproduct of that. And I'm not talking about the
Yeah,
guys who fish for fouls. I'm just talking about the pure shooters. So what we have now
yeah.
is a byproduct of those rule changes then when they wanted the game to be more exciting. That worked. So the rule change now to stop the guys from fishing for fouls helps a little, but the floodgates has been open, and I think the game has been changed forever at this time because I can't see them doing anything else that can slow down a shooter like Steph Curry. I just can't see it. James Harden is high up on the 3-point list as well, but his percentage is nowhere near that of Stephen Curry's percentage. So
Mm-hmm.
um, this will not be broken for a very long time. It took Ray Allen's record 10 years to be broken. This record might not be broken for 30, 40, 50 years. Like this might be some of Wilt Chamberlain's scoring records. Like it might not happen
Right.
if he stays healthy. But yeah, Steph Curry deserves all the flowers he gets. And he's only one championship behind LeBron James. And I think Stephen Curry scares the hell out of LeBron James as far as from a legacy standpoint. I think he scares him a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
moving right along to the Los Angeles Lakers, one of our favorite topics of our podcast this year, and also our NBA Finals pick. Well, things hasn't been going that great in LA. LeBron was out, Westbrook was out briefly, Anthony Davis is out. We'll touch on that later. But I saw a report this week that said the Lakers internally had discussions about trading Russell Westbrook because they feel like he's the reason that the Lakers aren't gelling. Bryce, true or false?
It's probably a little bit both. It's
Okay.
probably, I mean, well, okay, this is the thing. As soon as, like, people have been talking about Westbrook being the problem since before even Westbrook got there.
Right.
Okay, if anybody's not panning out the right way, outside of maybe Anthony Davis, everybody on that team is on the trading block to LeBron James.
Mhm.
That's how I look at it. Everybody, for the most part. Um, so there's probably always talk. There's probably always like, hey, what would you do if we did this kind of thing? That's probably always going on. So you could probably have said this was a rumor for the whole season. People have been talking about Westbrook being the problem the entire time. Anthony, the team not playing well, LeBron being out, Anthony Davis being out, all these new guys coming in, the team learning to play together. It's it's just a perfect situation for nothing but problems. Um, and Westbrook has been the scapegoat, like I said, the whole time. That's not going to change. We're going to, unless they really do something, we're going to hear that there's a rumor until the trade deadline. That's just the way it's going to be. Nothing like that. They could be winning, and they're probably going to be like, "Oh, there's Westbrook trade rumors." So that doesn't surprise me. It could be true, it could be false, but for the most part, I think we're going to be seeing this kind of thing most of the season. Like I said, until the trade deadline, anyways.
Yeah. It's just fascinating that he's always the lightning rod, no matter what team he's on. I mean, right now he's averaging 19, 7, and 8 as far as production, and his shooting has actually gotten better this year. So on paper, you would say, okay, Westbrook is having a very good year. But there's something that the Lakers don't like about him or don't seem to like. And they could say it's decision making. I don't know. That's any ball handler is going to turn over the ball. That's just how I look at it. And he's not even leading the league in turnovers this season. But there's something going on there. And I think, like you said, Westbrook is an easy scapegoat. Um, but I think there's more to it than that because of all the players on the team, he still plays defense, and the rest of them don't. So
Well,
there's your
there's
answer.
another thing we have to take into account, though. If this was anybody else besides Westbrook putting up these kind of numbers and doing what he does and having the attitude and the tenacity and all these things that he brings to the table, if this was anybody else, we'd be asking ourselves what the problem is. Why nobody wants to keep him? Why he's never there for more than a season or two?
Hmm.
Because it, like I said, if this is anybody else, we'd be like, there's something else going on there. There's a reason, of course. And if things don't work out in Lakerland, then it's really everybody has to put even a bigger eye on Westbrook because at this point it's probably right for him to get the scrutiny. There's something going on there where he just can't fit. And at this point, it's not all these teams he's been on. It's got to be him. That's the common denominator.
I would never,
I know
ever,
you won't.
ever say anything negative about Russell Westbrook.
That's
It
why I got
will
to be the balance.
it will not come out of my mouth, and you probably can't even see the large smile I have on my face right now. It will not come out of my mouth. And I would love to have Russell Westbrook on my team. And I know you would love to have Russell Westbrook on your team. So I think this take, not from you, but this take from the Lakers is a crock of shit. Now, we're going to go to who I think is the main problem with the Lakers. A guy who just said last week he has nothing left to prove in the NBA, which we can tell by his play this year, is Anthony Davis. Or, as some like to call him, street clothes, who's going to be out for another month at least with a sprained MCL. And the injury was bad. It looked ugly. Wasn't his fault.
Mhm.
Opposing player crashed into his knee hyperextended. It looked bad. Um, will the Lakers be able to win the championship without Anthony Davis healthy?
No, nope. I don't believe so. Look, 10 years ago with LeBron, Westbrook, and company, it would still be tough with just that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no.
I guess I should have rephrased your question. So let me rephrase it. Good answer, though, but let me rephrase it a little bit. Will Anthony Davis ever be 100% healthy with the Los Angeles Lakers? That's the question.
I don't think Anthony Davis will ever be 100% healthy. I think the best teams can hope for with him is that he can be healthy for the playoffs.
Okay.
I think thinking of him in terms of always being there or a thing. Well, it's never been a thing with him, but it's for sure a thing in the past now as he's getting a little bit up there in age.
Mm.
But if I'm being honest, it feels like there's just way more injuries nowadays, especially on the high use guys, more than ever.
Hmm.
I mean, last year it seemed like every team was limping into the playoffs for the most part.
Right.
Outside of a few exceptions, like the younger teams that surprised people, of course. But I mean, at this point, it's just part of the course for Davis. It's something all the time. And I think a lot of it goes into they're over cautious about him, but then on top of it, he's just always been injury prone. So I at some point, at what point do teams stay away from him because he's getting older and more injury prone? Might hurt his money and stuff a little bit sooner, but it's just always been a thing. And for him to say he doesn't have anything to prove, then a lot of guys have that answer, and I don't really know what it means. It's like, I guess you're just collecting checks. I get it, but then again, it's like, then don't I don't know. I guess just like you see him get passionate when he's out there at certain times or stuff. It's like, I don't get it. I just don't get it sometimes. These takes players have, and that's fine. I'm not meant to understand it all, but it's it's just counterintuitive to what the fans and what the team probably wants to hear. Where I want to come out here and win championships every year. I want to do everything I can to be on the court.
Yeah, it's.
So it's disappointing a little bit.
I knew you wouldn't like it. There's a couple of ways that a person could look at it. So, for example, years ago, I would hear players say, I'm not going to quit until I win a championship. And then they go out there on the court and play like ass. Or you see players that say the same thing, but then they go out on the court and give it everything that they have, right? So it's like, okay, now your words are believable. So when you see the way that Anthony Davis has played this year, dude, he's had a couple of good games. And what I mean by that is a couple of forceful games. But the rest of the games is like he's going through motions. So when you have that, with the majority of the games, you look like you're going through motions, and then you make a comment that says, "I have nothing left to prove in this league." Well, now I'm going to believe you. Now I see why you haven't been playing to your full potential because it just seems like you don't give a shit anymore. So I'm going to believe the words that's coming out your mouth right now because I was shocked when he said it. Even if that's the way you feel, don't say it. Because you're already going to get killed by your playing, which he did previously before he got hurt. He was starting to get killed now because people were starting to actually see what we had talked about previously. It's like, this guy's not going full speed anymore. But then
Mm-hmm.
you make a comment like that, and it's just like, bruh, you're not helping yourself out right now. Like you said, in the eyes of the fans, we want to see players give it their all the time.
Yeah.
So it's bad. I hope for the sake of my pick that the Lakers can turn it around, but it doesn't look good right now.
No.
And LeBron James, I don't know what he was referencing. I know he wasn't referencing any players or not, but he actually put out a comment on Twitter or something about how fake people are and stuff. He doesn't like fake people, so I thought that was ironic too. I have no idea what that was in reference to, but I think this is going to be his toughest year as far as getting everyone on the same page with all the personalities that they have. And even Carmelo Anthony, we know he's a leader. He's been playing well, but I haven't heard anything about Melo saying anything in the media as far as what the team needs to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't know what button they have to push to fix it, but I hope they can fix it because it doesn't look good right now. They're sixth in the West. There's a shot, but they cannot fall in that play in and expect to win the championship.
No. I agree.
Bryce, Bryce,
Yes, sir.
guess who the hottest team is in the NBA right now?
Memphis Grizzlies.
The Memphis fucking Grizzlies are the hottest team in the NBA with their franchise star Ja Morant being out for the last 3 weeks with a knee sprain. I looked at this. I actually watched a couple of their games against the Heat, and without Ja, and I'm like, wow. I mean, they killed us. And I saw so much ball movement, so much passion, dead eye shooting. I believe in their first, they went on like a 5 or 6 game winning streak before they dropped one. In 4 of those 5 games, they led the entire way. So they went like in a 4 game stretch and was never behind.
Right.
This it's crazy. So to me, it puts up a red flag. This is no hate towards Ja, no disrespect towards Ja, but it just puts up a red flag to say, are you as impactful to your team winning as you think you are when you're a young talent, when your team goes on a tear without you and have beaten good teams on the street? Because the last 10 games, they've been 9-1. What are your thoughts on the Memphis Grizzlies?
Um, Makes me just like, we've seen things like this before, like specifically, when Kyrie was in Boston, and they got better once they got rid of Kyrie, and you kind of question as to why or whatever. A point guard running the offense, has the ball in his hands the whole time, gets a few assists or 5 or 6 assists, and you think he's pretty much doing what he needs to be doing. And I know some of these guys that are also the point guard and like the primary scorer, on top of being a younger guy, you probably feel like you have to take on more of that responsibility, or at least some of these guys, they probably want to take on that responsibility. But at the end of the day, when you have these situations and the team is still thriving on the offensive end, everybody's making their shots. That's another thing too. Teams can get hot and cold, and that can be affected by who is running the offense anyways and how that offense is flowing. So it's like, yeah, the team's making their shots, but that could be because everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it should be humbling to these guards to know, like, look, you can pass to your teammate. You might be the flashy all-star, and you might be the one who had to do some things early on and, be the face of the franchise and, this or that. But you have a guy next to you who's paid millions of dollars to shoot the ball as well. And you should have faith in your team. And I think these situations are glaring, and it should be humbling to these players to know that, hey, the rest of your team can not only play without you, but thrive without you.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you're super talented and athletic and you're a future all-star and all these things, if you ultimately want to thrive and win in this league, then you have to trust your team and the way your team buys into playing, by what your coach is saying you need to do. If everybody's on the same page, it's like, hey, this is what we can do. You should fit into that. You shouldn't be a problem. You shouldn't be a ball stopper all the time, especially if you're the point guard. So it's like you need to know when to turn on when you're the only option. Like you should never really think like that.
Right.
But if you have to go get a bucket when your team calls on you to go get that bucket, then use that talent. But go out there and just play in the game and play the way your team is comfortable and has planned to play, and thrive that way first, because you can't deny the success they're having. And there's only one difference. So it
Right.
should be, like I said, humbling to these guards and these kids who are, kind of feeling like they're doing everything. Trust your teammates.
In this stretch, they got wins over Dallas, Miami, the Lakers, the Sixers, and the Blazers. Those are all playoff teams. So half of
Some
their
very good teams in there.
I mean, they got some stinkers, like Houston, and Sacramento, but half of the teams they've beaten in this 9-1 streak have been playoff teams. Dude, it's hella impressive.
Hmm.
It's extremely impressive what they've done. So I tweeted the schedule out earlier today, but I don't remember if they're on it. I'm going to try to catch some more of their games until he comes back. But like you said, it is humbling. Are they going to trade the kid? No. But it does make the franchise think, okay, we've done well building a pretty solid core. You know, maybe could we cut costs, trade them, bring a couple of vets in who can make big time shots? It does make you think that. So but we wish the best for Ja, and we hope he comes back healthy. And when he comes back, we hope they can continue to win and not do what Boston did. Remember when Kyrie came back to Boston, it was just a disaster at that point going forward
Yeah.
because he destroyed all the continuity that they had built, and then the next year he was gone. So we don't want that to happen in Memphis because we want Ja to do quite well because we like Ja.
Yes.
Anything else, Bryce? We kind of flew through this one today.
Trying to think. Not that I can think of. Still just can't wait to see some of these guys come back, like Klay Thompson.
Hmm.
Golden State's interesting already, and then you add him back into the mix. Interested to see how Kyrie comes in and plays. There's still some things that these teams got to figure out. So it's still just interesting and waiting to see I guess some of these things flush out, and hopefully some of these guys can get healthy and get back on the court because we need them back.
Yeah, one thing about Kyrie, they did announce, Friday that he was coming back, which I was like, okay, he'll. Oh Lord, more breaking news: the Lakers head coach now has entered health and safety protocols. Um, then they announced yesterday
LeBron
that
James?
no, Frank, that's a good one.
Oh, you said the head coach. I just got confused for a second.
Good one. They did say Kyrie is now entered safe health and safety protocols as well. So I don't think he'll be back in time for the Christmas Day matchup against the Lakers, I believe. I
Mm.
think we'll see the Nets at full strength around the All Star break because even when Kyrie comes back, it's going to take him a month to get back into game shape. So I see him coming back in January. By February, they'll be at full strength, and then we'll see how Brooklyn does at that point. Him coming back doesn't fix their bench per se. He's still not being able to play in Brooklyn. It's still going to be a problem for now and a potential playoff series. So the Nets are going to be must see TV going forward, but I am happy that Kyrie's going to be back. So that's a good thing.
Hmm. For sure.
All right. We're going to wrap it up this week. Ladies and gentlemen, please like, subscribe, and share our content at the Hardwood Nation on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Hardwood Nation. We see all you guys giving us follows. I got a great compliment yesterday. I DM'd you that, Bryce. I don't know if you saw it, but we're doing good stuff on there. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you again soon.